Welcome to Brave with Lisa. This space is designed to inspire, champion, and equip you to bravely walk in that unique rhythm of grace and calling that God has designed just for you. I'm so excited you're joining us today. Welcome to Brave with Lisa. My name's Lisa Bruton. I'm your host, and today I have the gorgeous Erica Harris. Now, Erica and I, we've been friends lightly on social media, but this is the first time we get to meet face to face. Online. And I actually really love her work. She writes, and the way she writes is just, it really hits the heart. And I know that I'm really going to learn a lot from her today. So welcome, Erica.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you here. Now, Erica, I would love you just to share with us, what does your world look like at the moment, and what are you passionate about?
My world is always it feels like it's always chaos, but it's beautiful chaos, and there's lots of joy in it. So I feel like right now I'm in a bit of a valley, but I found like this really beautiful patch of grass in the valley. So I'm sitting on there and I'm resting in the valley, and the Lord's starting to give me some really beautiful words out of there for my heart, for others. And I think I'm probably most passionate right now, and I have a lot of passions, I have a lot of interests and likes and stuff. But right now, I'm most passionate about just really resting in the valley and showing, maybe that's about showing others how to rest in the valley too. And, you know, when you feel so overwhelmed and everything's coming at you, how to run to Jesus instead of from him. I can say that because 2 weeks ago I tried to run from him again. Again, yeah. So just that finding rest even in the chaos, the darkness, the sickness, whatever is coming at you, and what the Lord does in the rest, He does it. So you said that, you know, the words that I write hit the heart. That's because He takes the pen, He does it. And so what He gives in the valley, the water or the oil or whatever He pours out there, is what I'm really, really passionate about at the moment, because that is all I have. That's all I have, just Him and rest.
Yeah.
So.
And I actually, to be honest, Erica, I find that really refreshing for someone to say, I'm in the valley at the moment. And because so many times we listen to stories and people, it's like, I was in the valley, but now I'm here. But actually, there's so many of us who are walking a certain valley. And I also caught that phrase of like, where you said 2 weeks ago, I ran from Jesus. And I'm just curious, what does that look like when you run from Jesus?
Yeah, pretty messy, to be honest. You know, I reached this point where, you know, control is a huge thing for people. And when everything is out of your control, and everything around you unravels, and you hold nothing in your hands, your future, your fate, like any decision, when it is all taken away, often, like my running looked like me trying to hide from Jesus, and instead of actually saying, yes, you know, you can have it all, you know, and giving it over again. And that can look like, you know, just trying to deny what's going on, trying to self-medicate with like food, alcohol, funny TV, silly TV, like whatever it is, destructive things, friends, you know, going every other place except for Him. That's what running looks like. Because when you run to Him, you're confronted with your humanity, with your, you know, utter powerlessness in what you're facing. But you know, He is always there, and so when you finally do, you know, come to the end of your running away, He's actually there at the end of your road anyway, and He just wants you to surrender to Him, and you know, just He falls to His knees when you fall to yours. Like, you don't fall, He doesn't let you go to the ground on your own. Yeah, and so I tried to run and distract myself from the gravity of my situation, which is a serious health situation. And it's just going to be me and him. And so I'm so thankful that even when I do try and run, he's there. He's running alongside me. I cannot outrun him. And I know that. I don't know why I tried again.
That's yes. I mean, I think we can all relate to that. I know even for me, when things feel overwhelming, I'll start to just numb. I'll go into this numb place, and yeah, you might like binge watch or something like that, just to, and you think you're taking the pressure off, but then it's still there. And Jesus is like, would you like to come and give that to me, Lisa? I'm like, oh yes, I would actually.
Yeah, I do. And when I do like binge watch something or like comfort eat or like go to wine, which I'm not at the moment, like, but that's been a struggle in my life. Because alcohol numbs and it makes you feel warm and a lot better, and you're like, oh, that's great. But he's with you even when you do that. He's sitting next to you watching the rubbish that you're watching. But he just, it's like if you had a friend sitting next to you and they were talking to you and you just kept watching TV and didn't talk to them.
Oh, that's a cool way of putting it, actually.
Like, no, this is way better. And it's such a beautiful friend that actually has real comfort and words, and offers you a tissue when you're crying, and you're just like, no. And we do it. We do it with friends. We do it with Jesus. We push people away because vulnerability is really scary. And and he's not frightened of our pain. He's taught me that he's not afraid of my pain. And then I had to come face to face with the fact that I was frightened.
There you
So,
go. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Hey, I know I had a fair bit of stuff going on with my side of the family, and I just kept going, and all's well. And it wasn't until I was at a conference and I just settled in, and just the music started, and I put my eyes on Jesus, and he's just like, sweetheart, you are so sad. And I was like, and just cried, because I just hadn't given space to pay attention to just the gravity of, the effects of those events. And I just needed a good cry. I needed him to take it, and just give him permission to speak to my heart. And so is that when you come back to Jesus, and present these things to him and hand him the control, how does that look for you?
Beautifully messy like that. Like, you need to cry. But I am a crier. Sometimes I put up a fight before I do, but that release when you cry, as you know, is just so good. And his words, like saying to you, sweetheart, you're so sad. His words, and like the words he gives me to write, they cut through like the marrow of death, and they speak life and truth into your spirit. And and it's so confronting, but it's the truth. And so when he does speak to me, when I come to him, it is just this, it's like a mighty, mighty surrender of everything. And it's like all the fears and the pain and the anguish and everything spills out. And I am usually on the floor when that occurs physically, like I'm crying on the floor when it all pours out, and the release and the comfort found in that painful place. And that used to happen to me at conferences a lot. I have to say, I used to go, and I would always be really weird about conferences. And I'm very much one who has to figure things out for myself. If everyone likes a speaker, I'm like, well, let me just hear first. And I always thought I was a bit angsty or rebellious, and that's what I'd been told. But really, it's the way that the Lord made me to tread carefully, and to it's okay to sit back and wait. And there's nothing I can do when he comes to me and says that, sweetheart, you're so sad, because he said that to me many times. And he will speak no matter what my attitude is. I know, I've just
Mm.
discovered that. But you know, I'd go into conferences and be like, I don't know, like everyone's really happy and I don't think it's real.
Yep.
Like, I don't think that this is real. No one can be that happy. And you know, upbeat all the time, or yeah, whatever. And I don't I grew up in the Baptist church, so I've struggled with that amped up
Mm.
Pentecostal thing where everyone starts clapping and yelling and there's music and lights, and I'd be like a deer in headlights and be like shut down. So the Lord had to meet me even there in that struggle, in
Yeah.
those places. And so often at conferences, wherever I was standing, I would be on my knees. So in the middle
Mm.
of the pews and cramped up on the back, sometimes outside, wherever I was. Yeah, he would come to me there because he saw me like a little tax collector up the tree.
Oh my goodness, you're gorgeous. I love to, right? Like he he really is a true friend and the perfect friend in that, it just takes a phrase or just even just knowing he's near, but he knows exactly what we need. And I find too, isn't it funny how like we might go to friends first or when we're going through things, and actually I was just chatting to you beforehand, so you can write a book about what not to do when someone's going through grief or mental health or things like that. Like it can be yeah, it can be damaging.
Mm, very, very damaging. And that's been you know, you brought it up, and that's been something I've been really thinking about a lot lately. There's so much in it, you know, who you trust your heart with sensitive things like your grief or your mental health, or you know, you need a lot of wisdom with who you
Mm,
trust, because people do um, experience all kinds of emotions when confronted with someone else's grief, and
mm,
usually it makes people really uncomfortable,
mm,
and so they're going to say things from not a whole place, and so they will often say things and it hurts you, and yeah, it creates a bit of a wedge between you and them. And um, having being in a situation where you are faced with a life or death kind of situation, and someone says, "Be anxious for nothing," you know. If I could catch the scripture and throw it back at them, I would. So I'm like, that's not true. I was like, that doesn't apply right now. And you know, I would be kind of in the past, I've been really like, it's created a divide between me and my friends, or I have gone into myself, like you said, you know, where you just kind of numb and try and cope, and because I thought, you know, you can't trust people to be gentle with you. Um, you know, that scripture I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it does apply, but it's just maybe it's just different for me. You know, I I know that Jesus was so anxious that he sweat blood,
mm.
and I haven't been there yet. I feel like I've been close, but that's very dramatic. I don't think I have been, but I have already a lot of anxiety, and so when faced with a medical situation, it's out of control, and he knows. He knows because he begged the Father to take it from him in the
Mm,
Garden of Gethsemane. He begged him, and he sweat blood, and he understands anxiety. So when the scripture says, "Be anxious for nothing," he is saying, "Give it to me." He's saying, "Give it to me," because I
mm,
already wore it in the garden. I already bled it in the garden for you. And that's where I came to. And so the friends that have said that, I'm like, that's okay though, because even if they're words that were so well meaning, didn't hit the mark, it brought me to the place where I looked deeper at the words, and, you know, had the encounter with Jesus in the garden. So it's it's a hard thing. Um, some really practical things of what not to say is that you'll be fine.
yeah.
Other people have gotten through it, so you'll be fine, because everyone's situation is different. Um, and nobody knows. And that's a really hard wrestle. And that's one I've been in, that, you know, no one actually knows if I'll be fine. And the, the peak of the, what is it called? The like, I'm blanking, but the place where you get to, um, what I realized was, even if I said the words to the Lord, even if I'm not fine,
Mm.
even if it is a long journey of chemotherapy ahead, even if I don't make it through, do I still trust you
Mm.
with my soul, with my family if I'm not here? Do I
Mm.
still trust you that you are good?
Mm.
And there's a bit that I'd been missing in the beautiful story of the fourth man in the fire, with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I love the story, and I've always loved it. And the bit that I've been really focused on lately is that they say, um, even if he doesn't save us, so they say our
Mm.
God will save us from being burnt by the furnace. But even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow to your false gods. We're not going to bow to you, and um, that's where I'm at. The even if, because yeah, when going through something huge, people, they give a lot of empty
Yeah.
empty things because they don't know,
Yeah.
and you don't know unless you go through it. So that's helpful when other people are going through things, to step back and think, actually, I don't know.
Mm.
And so sometimes just not saying anything is good.
Mm.
So what to do? um, a few weekends ago, when I had reached that um, point where I realized I'd just tried to run from Jesus, but there was nowhere I could run that he wouldn't be. And I just, a friend took me to a favorite spot by the beach, and I fell apart on the beach. Didn't matter who was around, kind of when you get into a situation like this, it doesn't really matter what you look like, what anything. Yeah, it just does not matter anymore. And I just began to just weep on the beach, sitting by the beach, and my friend just sat nearby. I think she knew that if she tried to comfort me, I'd be like, I'm fine.
What a good friend.
What a good friend. She sat there and she just said, can you feel the grass between
Mm.
your fingers? And I was like, she was helping me get grounded.
Mm.
And that was a good friend, because she didn't say, you'll be okay. Like, um, don't worry. Reaction. And I understand why people say it, but it
Yeah.
was a good, the right time for that friend to be with me then. Right friend, right time. And those are the
Mm.
hopeful moments, that even
Mm.
if you have hurt a friend, even if you've been hurt, the Lord can restore. And because her and I had said wrong things at wrong times to one another before.
Yeah. That's friendship, isn't it? But she sounds like she gave you such a safe space
Yeah,
to, because I'm sure she would have been watching your back, making sure no one approached you, or like just, her eyes would have been aware while
yeah,
you had that time of just
yeah,
allowing yourself to release. That's
yeah.
amazing. What a beautiful friend.
Beautiful friend. And if we hadn't said the wrong things at the wrong time to one another and then repaired it,
Mm.
I wouldn't have felt safe to
Mm.
fall apart in her
Mm.
presence. And so that's a journey of, it's, we do stuff up, but, it is so important to repair.
Yeah.
There are always ruptures, but, you know, the Lord showed us about the repair. And so we need to do that. It's so important for friendships. It's so important for God's kids to repair with one another. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
That's so true, to have the courage to have those uncomfortable conversations, but
yeah,
also trust each other that your love and your friendship is bigger than what you're addressing.
yeah. That's it. And bigger than your misunderstandings or your emotions about it. 'Cause your emotions can be so
Mm.
strong, and yeah, it's his love is bigger than that stuff. And so he's given us the ability to see straight to the heart rather than the other stuff, you know.
Mm.
And that's something that I think he's given me, is um, being able to see people's hearts really quickly.
Yes, I can imagine. And so when you say you can see people's hearts quickly, um, how do you, I guess there's discernment and wisdom in that, but how do you Like, does God bring words to you, or does he give an impression on your heart? How do you know?
Yeah, he does. And definitely something like that requires so much discernment and wisdom. And again, I've learnt those things by the whole What Not to Do book is getting full, because I've made the mistakes. I've made people so uncomfortable by speaking into things without just taking a minute and saying, Lord, like, is this something that you just want me to pray about for them? Is it something to write down later? Is it something to share right now?
Mm.
So when I get an impression of someone's heart, often I'll feel it in mine. I'll feel a struggle, or I'll feel, like a pain or something, and then the Lord will show me a picture of it, and so I've been writing these things down. Like I think, yeah, you've received some of that sort of thing
I
for
have.
the and it's really confronting for people sometimes, and so I do go into that so much more prayerfully now, um, and so a huge lesson I had to learn around this sort of thing was responding in the spirit and not the flesh.
Mm.
So that was a really big lesson, because, you know, an example is I would step foot into like a church service or something, and I would start feeling and sensing all of these different things in people's hearts, and I would start getting really like ruffled,
Mm.
really like cagey, like, oh, there's some stuff going on here, and the Lord sort of really gently, as he does, taught me to just, if he can handle that stuff, he can teach me how to
Mm.
sit in it. Um, and often you would probably know that as you see and speaking to others, he's challenging you to see it and receive it for yourself. And
Yep, it's very
yeah,
true.
yeah. So much learning through it. And I have found. I'll give a example
Mm.
of one. I was out, so I used to live on the Mornington Peninsula, and my girlfriends and I would go out to this really cool restaurant, and they had a dance floor, and we'd go for a dance after, and it was so much fun. And the Lord just continued to highlight this really lovely bartender to me. And I couldn't focus on having fun with my friends, because I felt the weight of this person's heart and journey. And it was really just the overwhelming sense of the Lord's love for this person.
Mm.
And so I just, I sat with it, and I wrote it down, and went back a few days later and just handed over this little letter to this person, and um, just watched the tears flow, and this person said to me, how do you know this? Only I know
Mm.
this. There's no one
Mm.
else, no other human that knows this. And I said, well, the Lord knows this, and for some reason he shows me these things. And I think it is that brave thing where he knows that I'll say it no matter how weird it sounds.
Yeah.
I'll say it no matter how weird I look. It doesn't matter, because if the Lord says to say it, I'll say it.
Yeah.
And so I brought it to him, and just the outpouring of the love of the Father in that moment was so beautiful. And he's just been doing that a lot more and more, around me. And just, yeah, he knows that I can write the weirdest thing. I think I wrote something really weird to you. And you're like, I'm going to have to sit with him and research this. And I was like, I can't explain these things. And another beautiful thing about it is often, once I've written it down and sent it to the person, this sort of, I would say it's a love letter from the Lord. Um, he will often remove it from my mind.
Mm.
So someone will come to me and say, oh, do you remember when you said this, this, and this? I'm like, no idea. I can't remember, but I know that whatever was written, like, from like my intimate time with the Lord. But to always check too, like, we're people, right? So
Mm.
it's really important to check when people speak into you, even if they've got like a gift, like, we all have gifts. Just check in with the Father first, like, whatever anyone speaks. So it's been such a journey, that whole
Mm.
see into people's hearts. And a friend said to me once that she's aware of that, and she said it disarms people, and that makes people really uncomfortable. And so that journey of being more like Jesus would be to be able to see people's hearts, but make them so comfortable, that they would want to come and sit and listen and come and just eat together and sit by the water with him and learn and talk and hear each other's stories. And that's sort of where he's taking me with it, I think.
It's so beautiful. I just see like he trusts you because you are a safe like a safe person for people, in that your heart is sincerely for them, no matter if it makes them uncomfortable. I think in this day and age, we can, like, be numb or just not as present, or to have someone speak directly to your heart in your everyday, it just kind of like smashes all of that, right? And so even if they're uncomfortable, like, that's gold going to their hearts, and like it is a gift from God to them. And I've learned over the time, because I can relate to what you're saying. I'll give words, and something that I've learned is that I'm not responsible for the outcome of Jesus's words. And
That's
how,
so good.
and like you said, like once you release it, it actually goes from your mind. So it's no longer this, it doesn't sit with you anymore. And I think, I think that's also key. We're not responsible for how people work through that with Jesus. And that word that you gave me, and I was like, oh, cool. Let me think about that. I've actually gone back to that many times over the last little while, and it's actually been so spot on.
Oh, that's great.
Go. Erica,
so
I have no doubt that this has been speaking to some people who are walking through valleys at the moment. How can people find out more about your poetry or your words, or where you write? How can people find more about you?
So it is Erica the Brave, and that's why I was thinking this is so beautiful, because it's Brave with Lisa, and he's obviously given you that name, and he gave it to me too, and I am sure countless others. But ericathebravewriter.com is the only place you can find me, because the Lord told me to get myself off social media last year. It's been a year, I think. And I just share on there, not very regularly at the moment with what I'm going through, but every now and then I'll share a blog post, and it's poetry or it's a story, or and the topics that I cover are the places that I've walked, and the valley. Seriously, I've been in a 7-year valley right now, still there. And so there's been a lot. So there's a lot that I write about. So I write about mental health. I write about ADHD and being an ADHD woman in church. I write about it's really hard. I write about birth trauma. I write just about being this like chronically earthbound misfit. But how I'm, we all are Eden bound, and how we fit with him, and that's what I write about. It's raw, but it's hopeful, and because that's the truth. And I write for a mental health magazine on the ADHD stuff as well, and there's links to that, and had the birth trauma story I shared published on Mamamiaand, and there's a link to that. And so there's some pretty cool things happening again in the valley, where the Lord's just doing that stuff. I'm not really doing that much. I'm painting. I'm enjoying being outside. I'm enjoying my family, and every now and then I'll post ericathebravewriter.com. If you subscribe, something will come into your inbox, probably at just the right time, I would say. So
amazing. Thank you for your time and just sharing so candidly. And, just also, I really believe that you just held such safe space for listeners today as well, by sharing your heart. So thank you.
Thank you. I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
I have no doubt. So I would fully recommend anyone who has just been like, you know what, I am walking through a valley at the moment. And I'm even finding it hard to put language around what you're feeling, then go and check out ericathebravewriter.com. That's right, isn't it, Erica?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are words in there that just, you're like, that is my heart. That's what I'm walking. And it just helps you feel seen, but also bring clarity to even what it is that you're walking. So I just really recommend that. And thank you, Erica. And come and join me next time I'm on. Yeah.
Thanks.
So thank you.
I'd love to hear more about your brave with Lisa. So I might, I'd
Yeah,
like to
maybe
talk
I'll
to you
get
more
you to
about that.
interview me.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on Brave with Lisa. I hope that it has inspired or impacted you in a small or large way. Feel free to comment, to subscribe, and share with some friends. And please join us next week on another conversation we will have here on this channel on Brave with Lisa.